Did you just get married? Well, now it's time to cover the number one reason for couples fighting, and that has to do with money. Finances are ever so important when you're newly married and when you're a long-term married person. So let's talk about some of the things that you can do when you're newly married to prevent money fights later on down the line. The number one thing that you want to do has to do with being transparent. What does your credit look like? What does your debt load look like? What kind of bank account information and assets do you have? Discuss everything out in the open. Make sure that everybody's on the same page as to what you have. The second thing is creating a budget. It's hard enough for one person to create a budget, let alone two people now to come together to create a budget. Spending habits are different, right? So your income is now combined. One person may make less money than the other person and have different habits than the other person does. So now you get to remember that everything is combined. So your spending habits now can change a little bit or get tightened up a little bit. So think about the budget and set one. And remember, only like 2% of people actually have a budget. So be the 2%ers. The third thing that you can do is build an emergency fund. So this third item is a hot one because your emergency fund balance needs now is changing. Now that you're two people's income rather than one, you need to figure out what your budget needs to look like as far as an emergency fund is concerned. Now, personally, I like 6 to 12 months worth of income set aside into a special savings account for emergencies, but everybody's different on this. So set that emergency fund and figure it out together. The fourth thing is plan for your financial goals. Now that could be buying a home, or it could be retirement, or planning for children, or college funds, or anything like that that you want to do in the future. Maybe taking a really spectacular trip down the line. So plan for those financial goals, discuss them together. The next thing that you want to do is number 5, and that is decide joint bank accounts, separate bank accounts. You have a separate, I have a separate, we have a joint, something along those lines so that everybody's on the same page as far as how the bank accounts are going to be handled. And also, just as a reminder, a payable on death, if you're not in a joint bank account situation, a payable on death is a really good thing to add to your bank account if it's yours only. That way, if something was to happen to you, your spouse can get into the account and handle finances on their own. Now, the sixth thing is determine the way that you guys are going to pay your bills. This is obviously very, very important because bills have to get paid. And in terms of getting your bills paid, who's in charge? Who's doing it? Is this a joint thing, which is my preference, or is this going to be something where we do it individually, or you do it and I give you half the money? You guys have to have this kind of conversation as well. The next thing is to communicate regularly. So communication is the key of any relationship, whether it's friends, family, or spouses. So obviously communicate regularly about your finances and make sure you're both on the same page. The 8th is seek professional advice. If you have a financial planner and your spouse doesn't, introduce them. Make sure that you're all on the same page as to what those financial goals are, and make sure that if you need advice on something, whether it's a CPA, a financial planner, an insurance company, an insurance advisor, get together with those people because your finances have just changed. The next thing is number 9, and that is be mindful of debt. Now, I can't tell you how many times I have had meetings with couples and I heard, shh, please don't tell him about that account. I can't do that, guys. Your credit is all over my desk. Your credit is all over. If we're Zooming on a Zoom that's shared, you can see everything on that credit report that's joint, and you will see everything on the application. So don't hide debt from each other. It needs to be all out in the open. Secrets are bad. Keep it out in the open. If you made a mistake, admit it and move on, right? The next thing is celebrate your financial milestones. So when you've reached a goal, like paying off a debt or saving a certain amount of money or being set for that trip in advance, celebrate it together. It's amazing when you actually achieve something like this. It's wonderful, and it allows you to help stay motivated to your financial goals. Now, a couple of other little tips just from a personal experience is make sure you manage your insurance, right? So your car insurance needs to be added and updated. Your health insurance needs to maybe be changed. Analyze whose insurance is cheaper and better, and then make a decision as to maybe you need to drop your insurance and you can add onto mine or vice versa. Life insurance. Change your beneficiaries on your life insurance. Make sure you have enough life insurance. Make sure that all of that is covered. The other thing, of course, is if you're currently renting, make sure you're both on the renter's policy, or if you're on a homeowner's, make sure everybody's on the homeowner's policy in case something was to happen, then everybody is on the same page. The other thing is, and this is the last tip, and that is if you don't have a will, get one. And if you do have a will, amend it. Make sure that everybody is on the same page as to what's going to happen when something happens to you, because let's face it, it happens, right? Life happens, death happens. So it's not morbid. It's the fact of life. We're born and we pass. And so we need to discuss those things so that if something happens prematurely that we're not expecting, everyone knows what the plan is. Make it a great one, and keep watching and subscribing and sharing. Thank you.